Hi, judges, and thank you for being here. My name is Sean, and this is SwarmMind self-optimizing multi-agent AI system. What I want to show you today is not just an AI system that produces output, but a system that exposes its process, shows its reasoning path, and verifies its claims with evidence instead of hype. This demo focuses on three things. First, a working multi-agent execution pipeline. Second, a cognitive trace viewer that lets you inspect what the agents actually did. And third, an evidence-based verification layer that separates what is verified, what is measured, what is untested, and what is still limited. That distinction is the heart of this project. Right now, the demo is starting. You can see the SwarmMind system initialize, create its initial agents, and begin processing a task. The task is intentionally simple, creating a basic web application that displays Hello SwarmMind. I chose a simple task on purpose because the goal here is not to impress you with a flashy output. The goal is to make the orchestration, traceability, and verification easy to inspect. At this stage, the system is now running a comparative experiment. It is testing a single agent approach against a multi-agent approach. This matters because a lot of systems claim that multi-agent architectures are automatically better, faster, or more intelligent. I did not want to make that claim without actually measuring it. So instead of saying multi-agent is superior, the system runs the comparison and reports the result of the run. That result is visible, inspectable, and tied to actual execution. Now you can see the experiment results. In this run, the winner is multi-agent. But what is interesting is how close the result actually is. The single agent path took about 4,525 milliseconds. The multi-agent path took about 4,524 milliseconds. The speed difference is effectively zero, while the system still reports an efficiently gain and gives a recommendation based on the measured run. That honesty is important. A weaker demo would round that into some dramatic claim and say that the multi-agent system crushed the baseline. This system does something more useful. It tells the truth about what happened. The result here is nearly identical in raw timing, and that is still valuable because it shows that the system is reporting evidence rather than trying to perform confidence. You can also see the agent activity summary. This run used 4 specialized agents: a planner, coder, reviewer, and executor. Each one contributed 2 events for a total of 8 trace events. So what we are looking at is not just final output, we are looking at a coordinated workflow where each role has a distinct contribution and the system records that activity for later inspection. Now we reach one of the most important parts of the entire demo, the cognitive trace viewer. I'm pausing here briefly because this is where SwarmMind stops being a black box. Instead of just seeing that a result appeared, you can inspect the actual trace tree. You can see which agent acted, when it acted, what task it received, and what result it returned. That means that the reasoning path is not hidden behind a final answer. It becomes something you can review, question, and audit. In the trace tree, the workflow begins with the planner, which receives the goal and generates the implementation plan. The plan is then handed to the coder, which produces the implementation artifacts. Then the reviewer evaluates the generated work. And finally, the executor completes the chain. This trace structure is what makes the system legible. It gives you a visible account of collaborative AI behavior instead of forcing you to trust the output blindly. For me, this is one of the deepest parts of the project. Not just that the agents exist, but their work is inspectable. That is a major difference between AI that performs and AI that can be held accountable. This is where SwarmMind starts to argue for a different standard, not just capability, but transparency. Now the demo moves into the verification system. This is where the project becomes more than a multi-agent orchestration demo. A lot of software, especially a lot of the AI demos, say things like all systems pass, fully verified, or production ready, without proving these statements. I specifically wanted to build a system against that habit. So the verification system distinguishes between what has truly been established and what has not. In the verification report, you can see two categories marked as verified: that the agents are live and that there are no failed tasks. Then you can see the measured results, including latency and trace completeness. The measured latency in this run is 4,528 milliseconds against a threshold of 10,000 milliseconds, which passes. And the trace completeness shows 8 trace events above the minimum 4 required, which also passes. Just as important, the system is willing to say what it does not know. For example, GPU stability is listed as untested, which is an explicit note that this is a CPU-only demo. And the report also lists limitations such as single run metrics, lack of variance data, and the fact trace completeness measures structure rather than semantic correctness. This is the kind of honesty. That kind of honesty is not a weakness. It is the point. An accountable AI system should be able to say, this was verified, this was measured, this remains untested, and these are the current limitations. That is more trustworthy than a system that overclaims certainty. Now we reach the document called the Journey to Truth. This is one of the most important artifacts in the entire project. Because the real achievement here is not that the system began perfect. It absolutely did not. Earlier versions of the verification logic included hard-coded pass conditions, values that claimed success without measurement. That was discovered, challenged, and documented. So the deeper accomplishment of SwarmMind is this. It moves from unverified confidence to evidence-based truth. It does not just produce result. It learned to distinguish claims from measurements and to make that difference visible. That is what I believe trustworthy AI should look like. Thank you for watching. SwarmMind is a self-optimizing multi-agent system, but more importantly, it is a system designed to tell the truth about itself. Thank you for watching. SwarmMind is my attempt to build AI that is not just capable, but accountable.